Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jenn Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Howdy, howdy.
Yippee. Whee!
Yeah, here we go. How was your weekend?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Just trying to maximize every ounce of time.
Well, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a good weekend. Jim and I are getting ready to take the RV back out.
Ooh,
and so
exciting.
We were back in like de-winterization of the RV.
Okay.
And, you know, I've become really obsessed with my garden, with my plantings.
Okay.
We did all sorts of plantings.
What do we have growing?
Jerusalem sage, not edible, not food, just botanicals. And it has become my happy place.
Oh, yay.
Every morning out doing my little routine, talking to the plants, talking to my birds, filling the bird baths. Oh, yeah. It's been great.
Good.
So, yeah. What about you?
Good. It was just a busy weekend. We had Alex, my son, fractured his arm. So that was our first bone break, hopefully our last. So we were just dealing with that. And
how's he doing?
Oh, he's fine. He's more frustrated that he can't. He's in this big splint that's like going above his elbow and he can't extend his arm.
Yeah.
So that's just where he's frustrated.
Yeah. And you just realize how much you use it. So then you're constantly adjusting to that.
Yes. I think he was worried he wasn't going to be able to do his gaming and all of that. But I walk in his room and he's got like some configuration with his arm and he's still like he's figured it out. But again, but that was, other than that, it was the weather has been amazing.
It's the best spring I can remember.
Gosh, so it's been great to just get outside. Of course, the heat is coming next weekend. But it was busy work-wise, but then just some relaxing with the fam. And same, Ari's his new thing is bird watching. He's got some feeders that were, so it's like, it's a thing. You can just sit out there and get mesmerized. Like,
it's great.
And I also laugh. I was like, this is where we are in life now, is that we are bird watching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's great. And we're like, he's got like a identification of all these different birds. And he's like, totally. That's like the red finch with the
100%.
Yeah, I was like, we are so old.
Does he also have the one that also mimics the sounds of their chirping?
No, we don't have that, but we have a ton of lovebirds, the parakeets.
Yep.
The ton of those. So those are kind of fun. So we've been seeing here we are. So this is,
I'm here for it.
Me too. It's fun.
Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that in the heat. Because usually when it gets hot, I'm very, very sensitive to the heat. I've got an autoimmune situation that definitely affects how I tolerate the heat.
Yeah.
And I'm just bound and determined this year that I am going to spend as much time before 6 o'clock in the morning outside so that it's still tolerable. Like it's not going to be great. But at least I can be out there because I am a different person when I can be outside in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that clock. We have to get up earlier.
I'm fine with that. I get up early. I mean, right now I'm getting up at 4:45. But so in the summer, I'll usually I'm up between 4 and 4:30. It's fine. But it's more about just I just don't want to miss the time outside. Right now, I've been outside every morning for a good chunk of time. Mm-hmm. It's more about when the heat kicks in. Am I still going to be able to do that? I just figure it means I'm going to have to be out there earlier, but I need it.
Yeah, it does help. It just helps because, I can get myself just stuck in my desk inside and I don't go outside all day. So it's like to get outside and get that morning sun and the crispness of the air. Yeah. Well, to be continued.
But it kind of segues into what we're going to talk about today, which is the idea of and versus or.
Okay. Well, tell us about that, Jen. Like, explain what you mean by that.
That sounded very official. Tell us about that, Jen.
Well.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What do you mean by and or?
Something that was shared with me many years ago, it was actually by my first therapist after my brother died. And we were talking about, just in general terms, we were talking about the concept of grief and how grief is something that the ability to hold more than one thing in your hands at the same time.
Okay.
And so when I was first introduced to the concept, it was under that lens, through that lens, which was you can be carrying this grief, but you can also be feeling joy, and you can also be still feeling celebratory or angry or whatever the other emotion is.
Sure.
You can hold both in your hands at the same time. Then that concept really kind of morphed into the ability to be a working mom, but also be a mom, right? So that it's not an either or.
Right. You don't have to choose one or the other. How do you do not multiple personalities, but have multiple.
Yes, multiple personalities in therapy would be a whole different tract.
Yeah, that's another episode.
It is correct. It is about how do I incorporate these many facets instead of feeling it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And in my world, I would very much overreact in the sense of that it had to be all or nothing, that there couldn't be this sweet spot of multiple things. And when I was younger, and when I went to college and was told, you have to choose what you're going to sing stylistically, because you're not going to be able to do both. And I remember fighting against that, going, but I can, so why can't I? And I carved my own path in music, doing both. I was able to do classical and musical theater, classical and contemporary, classical and the American Songbook. I didn't have to just be an opera singer or just be a contemporary singer. I could do both. And that was how that imagery really helped me understand the same goes for life.
Yeah.
I can be an incredibly successful businesswoman and be a really great mom. They're not mutually exclusive. And so when we distill all that down to today, for today's purposes, it's really about recognizing that that's also part of success resequencing. So often we're told it has to be one way or else. Or you've got to prescribe to this philosophy. You can't also do that. And I was taught that in religion, like growing up. You either are all in with this fundamental belief or anything else is evil. Right. And to use another extreme, but it was like, wait, but why can't I extract different philosophies to create my own philosophy that really honors who I am? And that's what I really want to encourage people, is that you can create your own life, and you can take all those definitions and put them together and have that be part of your own belief system. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a great topic that does tie back to a lot of what we've talked about in previous episodes and with this whole idea of success resequencing, because, to your point, we grow up with directives because I think it makes it simpler for parenting styles, for teaching styles, for, society's norms, right? Where it's like create an identity for yourself. And then you get stuck in that silo. You get stuck in that rut of whatever that was you created for yourself at 23, 24, 25. You were a different person at 34. You're a different person at 44. You're going to be a different person at 54. So to say you can't have multiple things you're interested in, or you can't have multiple directions you want to go with your life, right? That's false, And I think that the it is, and you can do more. You can, like you said, be a great mom, be a great business owner, be a great singer, be a great artist. Like all of these things can be who you are. You don't have to choose one, but I think that we can get hung up saying, but how? How do I give myself time to do one or the other,
And I think that's part of the exploration, because this weekend, I was asked about, it was about 10 days ago or so, a friend of mine had reached out and she said, can I hire you to do a commission for someone in my life? I need a gift. And I was like, absolutely. And so we were talking through it and what that encompassed and what I can and can't do when it comes to, I'm not the person that you want to have paint dogs, right? Like I'm not there. I'm lots of botanicals, lots of flowers, lots of nature things. And so that was exactly what she wanted. And I was looking at my schedule and I was finishing up my schooling and licensing for my broker license. And I knew that this was going to tick into, one was going to dovetail right into the next.
Right.
And that I needed to give myself permission to say, I can do both.
Mm-hmm.
I need a minute in order to do that. And I had to evaluate for myself, like, am I going to be able to keep my word and be able to do this? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
But it also meant it wasn't going to be necessarily on, it wasn't going to be on in a time schedule or a fashion that I had a lot of wiggle room. I knew that for myself. It wasn't, friend didn't need to know that. It was more about, I knew I had this chunk of time to be able to do the commission in a way that I could fully focus on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, as I've explored this and or piece, is I can do both, just not necessarily at the same time.
Right.
And I have been so fired up lately with people when they have that free moment or it's on their top of mind list, then all of a sudden I'm supposed to answer my text immediately, give them what they want, change my schedule, when I have had really to stop and go, actually, no, I'm going to honor it when I can honor it fully.
Right.
And if that means that I can't do that for 5 days, then I'm okay to say that. It's not because I'm busier or better. It has nothing to do with that. It's when can I be fully present?
Right. Right.
When can I fully give myself to whatever that is, whether it's meeting with a client or painting a commission or being with Jim or prepping the RV to go on a trip. Like, they all have their place and there's room for all of it. But depending on how I pull the levers on any given day, it may mean, yes, I can't do that today, but I can do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And trying to find that as the harmony. I don't believe really in balance per se. It's more harmony. Like, how can I make all these things work together and not sacrifice something else to, more importantly, not sacrifice my word.
Right. Right. So going back on the whole concept of because I think what we're talking about now and how I brought up the how do you do it, right? So it's like a time management, it's a harmony. But let's take a step back and ask more about, like, what does that mean to add the ands, right? How do you feel like it's a privilege, if you will, as you age and experience different things? Can you do that from a young age to say, and, like, I want to do, where I'm going with this is, like, now you've had all the experience of singing. So you dedicated time in school to do the singing. Then you dedicated time to being an entrepreneur. Then you had Lila. So now you've dedicated time to being a mom, right? So it was kind of layered on over time, how you and. Do you feel like that's important, that it is something that needs to be added in over time? Or do you feel like it's a mindset that young people should embrace, to say you don't just have to study business, you can do this and this and this, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I can only use my reference from my own personal experience, and that's how I raised Lila. I didn't raise her to only do one thing. And I think it's an easy trap as a parent to use our experience at a 35,000 foot view to say, that's not going to yield them the success that they may think. It's probably this over there. I really want to encourage them to do this over here. And what I realized with Lila was that with her, she had outlets in other things that we always fundamentally encouraged. It was not because it had to yield something specific. Right. What was important was that she was multifaceted. And that she had outlets that help sustain the motivation for the why on a daily basis. So here's this kid who, almost 21, God. Wow. Here's this young woman who marched through school, studying, always having a science focus, always. But then she was obsessed with the French language and became bilingual, and she got her seal of biliteracy in high school and then went on to minor in French in her undergrad. Then go to school to be a microbiologist, but then she also founded and runs the dance society, the all-inclusive dance society for her university. And yesterday, they're going into finals this week, and I was talking with her yesterday. She produced what I think now is her 6th show.
Wow.
She figured it all out. She figured out which theater. She hired the tech. She produced the entire show. She was in 13 numbers. She did all of that. And then yesterday, I'm like, how did it go? And her response to me was, it was great. We had such a great time. She's like, we had the most attendance. They sold 132 tickets.
Nice.
And it was one of those moments where for her, it is instilling not only her creative outlet, but she's figured out how to produce. She's figured out how to run these little micro shows, which has given her confidence. It also, and she works part-time. So she's doing multiple things. And we have encouraged that because we think it actually makes for better, more well-rounded people to understand how to juggle things instead of being so hyper-focused that you lose sight of what is important in life. So I've watched it work in her, and she's in a relationship now. Like she's figuring out all of those pieces. Doesn't mean it's perfect all the time, but she is as well-rounded as she can be at this juncture in her life. And what she chooses to do with that as she moves forward, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not attached to that outcome so long as she's happy. And I would be a hypocrite if I didn't raise her to be that way, because I fundamentally believe that's where I'm at my, I don't know, the most peaceful is when I'm in flow like that, when I feel like I can touch all these things and find the joy in all of them. Yeah. It doesn't have to be just one thing. Yeah. I think that's a slippery slope. Yeah. When you have all your eggs in one basket.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you have to fight against what you're going to be put in front of just as you go through life, because the only way I see like education and all of this being able to funnel this many people through the system is to say, pick a major, pick a this, pick a that, where how great would it be if college was more of a rotation, right? How great would it be if it was encouraged to actually study and all different types of majors, right? Instead of saying your freshman year, you got to figure out what you're going to be. You got to figure out what you're going to be at 18 years old and then pick that and do that for 4 years and then get a job in that. And it's like, whoa, you don't know yet. I mean, 18, 19, 20. Like,
as we say to Lila all the time, it is totally okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
I changed my mind multiple times throughout my course. And I understand the allure to figure it out and then just go the distance with it. There's probably a part of me that, what's the word? I'm going to use the word. It's not probably correct. It's almost like I sentimentalitize. That's not a word.
That's
maybe let's just go with basic. Like I fantasize about what it would be like to have one thing. And have known that since I was that age and taken it all the way. And for me, I thought that was singing, right? I mean, on a certain level it was. I would be so boring and I would be so bored.
Yeah.
If it was just that thing.
Yeah.
And I really encourage people to be multifaceted. I feel that way. I mean, I really do believe that that's something I encourage in other people. It's like, you want to do that? Do it.
Right.
You want to do this, make money at this and this, great. Like, figure it out. What makes you happy? Right. Some people do want that one thing. Great. Yeah. I just personally have always wanted to be, they're calling people like that now. Of course, there are names for it now. There weren't when we were growing up. Multi-passionates, which it's like, I can be passionate about more than one thing. And that doesn't take away. It's not a zero-sum game. Right. It doesn't take away from the other. What if it adds?
Exactly. Like, I think it actually helps you become better at the multifacets that you're interested in or passionate in.
Totally.
And I think it's about removing the, the idea that, I have a successful real estate business. I should not do anything else, because what message would that send to anyone who's like, oh, wait, now you have a podcast? Yeah. Oh, is that taking time away from your real estate? No, but are people actually asking that? Or am I putting that in my own head of this? Oh, now you're doing consulting for another business? Like what? Yeah, but it's all about being able to do things that you enjoy. And it only makes you better at the other things you're involved in, because it gives you so much more perspective and it balances you so you're happier. And, who's to say you can't be, there's all these titles we give ourselves, and it's like we're putting ourselves in these silos with these titles, when to just say, I'm a business person. I'm a business person and I like all different types of business, and I'm going to be successful at whatever I put my mind to, right? So it's like, yes, I have this and I have this and I have this, but that's what makes me successful. Right?
Was that a change for you though? I feel like I've always grown up with, I think anyone who goes into the arts, there's just so much conversation and dialogue about, people always knew that you would wait tables and perform, or there was just always it was a very different mentality. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that that's something that you've had to fight against, understanding that it is totally and utterly okay to do more than one thing?
Yes, I've definitely had to come to terms with that and be okay with that and understand what that looks like and understand what that means. And that means I've done the wrong things and the right things, and I've had to kind of figure out what that means. But I grew up with parents that, my dad had the same job and was loyal to the same company until they forced him into retirement, know, and that's just what I saw. So that's how I was raised, that's what you do. You go to college, you get a degree, you get a job in that degree, or you go to graduate school. So I did the graduate school. So then you go to grad school, and then in grad school, they're like, pick a job, pick a career, pick a focus. So I picked a focus, and then, you know what I mean? So I was very structured and just was like, this is how you do it. This is how you climb the ladder. This is, you follow this step, and then you go to this step, and then you go to this step, and then you get a job, and then you start here, and then you get promoted, and then you get promoed, and then you know what I mean? So it was a very linear.
Which probably fed your type A.
It absolutely did. But then what I was missing was really listening to the parts of me that were not wanting to be so linear, and wanting to have a little fun and wanting to be creative, So then I dabbled in college I sang in a band. Even in grad school, I sang in a grad school band. So that was fun, right? So now but it was like, but back to work on Monday, you know what I mean? So it was like, you stay out till 1 and close down the bar, but then back to school, Yep. So it was still, and to that point, my mind was always on, but that's just something fun to do on the side. Like, that's not where you're going to grow your career. So give yourself a little fun on the weekend, but get back to work on Monday with the linear progression, right? So, for me, it's really developed over the last, few years. You've known me now for 6 or 7 years?
Yep.
And when you first met me, I was very dialed in on one thing, you know? And now I've been like, okay, that's not enough. Like, I'm not.
Have you hung out with me too long?
I've hung out with Jenn too long. Everyone, hang out with Jenn, and you're going to be going all over the place, exploring your creative side, and exploring what else there is, right? But
warning,
yes. Jenn should come with a warning.
Yep.
Like, she will inspire you to look outside the box. Like, if you want to stay comfortable inside a box, be warned with them.
Yep, exactly. Not going to work out so well.
Yeah, but it's being okay with yourself to say. Now, I've struggled with that, and you've seen that too. My husband's seen it, where it's like, now you get the bug, and it's the and then 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 you're adding and you're adding and you're adding and you're adding, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. So finding the
it's
harmony.
Tough when you're a businesswoman, though.
Yeah.
To not want to monetize everything. So I think there's also that line in the sand. Like, I've been asked a lot about my watercolors, right?
Yeah.
How much can we pay you for this? And I've actually I've been really adamant about not getting paid because I know how my brain works. And now we have a business built around it. And now I have these KPIs and I need to do this, and this. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do that because I simply love it.
Something needs to be the hobby.
Correct.
Right? Something that's a break away from business.
Otherwise, I'm going to overthink it and I'm not going to, because the thing about that is that I can do it whenever I want or can. It doesn't have to be every day. I need to touch it this many times. And that I don't want to do that to myself with that.
Yeah.
So I think when you're an entrepreneur and you do have that inclination, everything is under the guise of how am I going to break into this or do this? What's my measure of success here? How am I going to monetize it? Blah, 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 blah. That's a trap.
Yeah.
And that can be a distraction, right? Whereas understanding that there's value to give in certain things, sometimes there's enjoyment to receive out of certain things, but then there's still our, for lack of a better word, our job. Like, what is it that we've built that's actually bringing in the income to the family, that's actually propelling and moving things forward so that we actually have the privilege of being able to say, I get to paint today and I don't have to make it a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just don't. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah. And I think it's about also understanding when you add an and, you have to separate yourself from, if it is an and, that is something that's a monetizable thing, right? If you're adding another business, if you're doing that, because I do now see that you can be very successful as owning multiple businesses.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But the hard part, especially as you're growing it, is that you're wearing every single hat for all those businesses.
That's right. So you can really it can really thin you out in terms of time.
Yeah. So that's where, and that's the part, I'm going through that now of like, okay, well, what does this mean? And how much can you really grow something if you have multiple businesses, and understanding that it's possible, and you just have to look at it differently. Right.
You have to be open.
And you have to be open, and you have to ask for help and delegate and like learn how to expand without losing the reason why you enjoy doing it.
Yes. We also, not all businesses are created equal. And in real estate, from my vantage point, at the end of the day, real estate still requires me to be there. It's not something that I can become owner and oversee, but not have to be in the weeds of. That's not a business that I can remove myself from. And so when I'm looking at adding other things, I judged myself for that in the beginning. And then I realized, no, that's not actually what real estate is. I do have to show up. I still show my clients. I still write my contracts. Like that's not stuff I can, It requires me to be there.
Yeah.
And so now it's more, if adding other things, if it's an and, then it has to be either something that doesn't require that same kind of commitment of time, of weeds, if you will, or you have to have the staff in place to be able to run those components to it. I don't know. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think at the end of the day, I'm the one that still has to go sell the houses.
Yeah. I'm changing my mindset on that a little bit. I 100% agree with how, if you have a relationship business and you are okay with the capacity that only you can bring to the table, then absolutely. And I don't want to go on a tangent on real estate on this business, but I do think, to our point in this whole thing, I do think you can build a real estate business without being the one selling the house, but it's a completely different mindset, and it's a completely different business. You're now owning a business, not in the transactions anymore. So I think it's possible, but it's a different approach. And that means if you like being that person and you like dealing with the transactions, you're never going to be happy running that kind of a business. And you need to stay there because you'll be able to grow more if you're happy at what you do. But I do think that you can build a real estate business and get out of the daily transactions. Now, I haven't figured this out, and I'm not saying this is what I'm doing, but I'm just starting to observe different business models and different strategies and different mindsets of very successful people, not necessarily in real estate, but in just business. And it's like, oh, there's a way.
I don't think so. Not in residential. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know that otherwise you're running a brokerage and that's not generating the same kind of To have somebody else going and doing it all, I don't know how that works in residential. I understand in some other models that works. Food for thought. I mean,
food for thought. I think
I look at the top real estate people in the business, the biggest names in the industry, and no one's running that business. Doesn't mean it can't happen,
right?
But success does leave clues. I find it, I can't imagine being in a position where all of my clients are I'm never handling any of them.
Right.
And I don't think that makes me less than.
No. Oh my
gosh,
I don't
think
no,
if I want to be in the weeds of the transactions, I'm like, no, that's my job.
No. And that's not where I'm going with that. It's more of a, there is a way to do it, but you will no longer be the person in front of the clients. And that's like, I don't know that I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like it just goes back to, again, not going on this tangent, but it's just a matter of saying, like, listen, if there's a will, there's a way, and there's a way to be happy doing what you truly are good at, right? So if you have, let me just give a different example. Like my husband is a periodontist, and we've had this discussion all the time. Like, he can grow his business, and he could add associates, and he could buy another practice, and he can grow because other people are doing it. But now he's no longer in practice. Now he's a business owner. And now he's just managing people to run a business. But that's not how he's operated. And that's not how he's gotten successful. His patients love him, right? So that wouldn't be fulfilling to him. So that's not a business model for him to say, and. His and has to come from, and I love to cook. And I love to, have hobbies of, watches and wines and cars. So that's what's balancing him out. He is not craving to become a CEO that operates 10 dental branches around Phoenix, right? So it's a completely different mindset. And that's all I'm saying is that there are CEOs of giant real estate companies that probably don't do a single transaction, but they are doing what they are good at, and that is running a business where they have very successful agents like you and I who build business by being that relationship. So it's all I'm saying is like there's different ways to like say, and where I'm going with that is that, the and can look different to everybody. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, you are looking at me with these eyes like, girlfriend, I'm going to be asking you some questions after this podcast. But no, I'm really, there's nowhere I'm going with that.
Where my brain went? I am a CEO.
Yeah.
I'm a chief executive officer of my business. And I have multiple people that I oversee.
Yeah.
So, and I love that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that still doesn't eliminate me not having a client base. So if I want to have a brokerage and only oversee agents,
right?
Sure, then I would build a brokerage.
Right.
That's our solution. But that has yet, no one's figured out necessarily how to monetize that in the same way.
Right.
So
that's
that's why I just don't know.
You and I have talked about this all the time. We love being involved with our clients, and we love being involved with agents that we have on our team. We've looked at each other and be like, what does it look like to have a brokerage? And it's like,
it's because it doesn't pencil out.
Right.
It's not because we wouldn't actually be really, it's not that I wouldn't do that.
Right.
It's that it doesn't pencil out.
Right.
So to my point, that's where my brain's going in this moment. It's like, but I would never be, if you want to be in the transactions, great, then that's the kind of business you have. No, it's that I would run a brokerage. I'd have multiple brokerage. I love to be on that level of overseeing people and having them all create and be able to grow. It just doesn't pencil out in residential real estate. As per every broker we've ever talked to, they're like, the math doesn't math.
Yeah.
So I think that's where my brain is in that moment. It's like, if we're going to compare apples to apples, I just think it's a tricky business to do that in. I wish it did, because I think that is, for me personally, I know that's where I would want to go.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more than to be able to oversee all the people.
Yeah.
Because I do love that.
Yeah.
But so far, it doesn't seem to be mathing.
Yeah. Yeah. total tangent we went on here with going through but I think going back to like the and or the or on that mindset, I think that's just a door that needs to be opened. I think it's the and. I think that's what I'm so passionate about with what we're doing here in the talks is like, don't let what others have failed at keep you from succeeding at it. And it can be an and.
Okay.
I don't know. That's all. And that's where I'll leave that little thought. Not an or.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. On that.
Cool.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a minute to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.